All right, welcome everyone to the newest episode of eTalks this week. Here we have this time Marjan and Kari as our moderator and guests. My name is Zaina Prostidik. So we have our lovely guest speaker, Kari O'Rourke. She is a ALL educator, U.S. Navy veteran, and a Ph.D. candidate, and hopefully she'll be receiving her Ph.D. this spring. So congratulations, Kari, from now. And she's from Missouri. And she has 6 cats and a dog. So as a cat person, that's very, very lovely to hear. And as our moderator, we have Marjan Kulolu. And she is a freshman in Rutgers University, double majoring in psychology and music. She also plays the violin, and she is a very active human rights activist and very active in our community. So welcome to our moderator and our guest speaker. We are very, very delighted to have you here and to have the topic of the bridge for the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we are right here with our beautiful audience to hear what you will say.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. That was a very flattering introduction. Wow. Okay. Well, so we don't have a lot of time, and this could be a course that could take 6 to 8 weeks to teach. So I'm giving you the Cliff Notes version of this. I called this a fusion workshop because we're going to talk about 2 things. One, a writing technique that I like to use, and the other is a very important topic. And we're going to use that topic as our writing theme to do that. And the topic will be the bridge. We'll be talking a lot about all the aspects of what it means to bridge and what is a bridge. And I call kush tuyu kalem. That means kind of the old way of writing. It means feather pen. And it means kind of the old way of writing. I think we've gotten into a social media age where we very quickly, we read phrases and we don't speak. We speak in LOLs and little emojis. We don't speak in complete sentences. And so when it comes to writing, you've got to be able to write in a complete sentence and your paragraphs have to make sense. And one of the things that young students face and old students face is kind of, I call it the Moses syndrome, you know, the prophet Moses, right? Don't wander through the desert for 40 years to get to your point. So every good paper, every good sermon, every good speech makes 3 points, not 4, not 2, but 3, because our brains want balance. Our brains want to understand better what's being said. And if you expect the person who is hearing what you're saying, or you expect the person who is reading what you're saying to understand, you've got to let their brain have time to think about it, right? So you've got to take a pause and you've got to let people think about what you're saying. So the voice is empowered when someone listens, and someone can't listen if you're all over the place with your writing and with your speaking. And so that's why we're going to kind of organize this a little bit. So I'm going to go to the next page of the PDF I've got here. And I just drew this by hand. This is my favorite. I have used this many, many times. And so Marjan and I, and by the way, Marjan is a really good friend of mine. And we are unlikely, about as opposite as two people could possibly be. First of all, I'm old and she's young and beautiful. And she is intelligent and I just kind of, you know, wing my way through life. She's a bright up-and-comer woman, and she and I co-hosted or co-emceed the Unmuted exhibit when it was in New Jersey in June. Yeah. And then many things have happened as a result of that. So Marjan, thank you for being my foil today.
Of course, thank you for coming here tonight. I mean, somehow we've been finding our way towards each other. This is going to be our third program. You know, who knows how many more we'll be having later on, but thank you so much for having us, and especially with your first topic here on your Writers Collaborative. Definitely, as a college student, I think it's something that I need to have grounded from my first year, because, you know, writing an essay could be very hard, and not having a proper outline to bring that forth can make your work much, much harder. So hopefully, you know, I have my paper over here, notebook over here, and my pencil. So yeah, I'm listening.
Thank you. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is unsettle you, and especially you, Marjan, because you're a very neat and tidy person and you follow all the rules, and I break all the rules when it comes to this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have you take your paper, instead of being upright like normal, and I'm going to have you turn it sideways. And that may make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, because that's not probably how you typically write in your notebook, is sideways like that. But we got to have lots of room. We got to have room to roam here and get stuff done, right? And so I just already wrote in there our topic, which is bridge. Okay. So what do you think? Now we're going to brainstorm. The very first thing we do when we prepare to write a paper is we brainstorm. What do you, when I say the word bridge, what comes to mind? What kind of words come to mind to you?
Bridge is something that connects two things.
Okay.
If I understand, normally physically, something very long as well, very strong and sturdy.
Uh-huh.
What else should I say? I always think of like ropes, like, you know, maybe it's with the designs of the bridges. Yeah, I think of the George Washington Bridge. I think about the toll that you pay to go through it.
Right, the toll. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, okay. Okay. Those are some good thoughts. So we've got something that connects. We've got something that needs to be crossed. That came up in the
yeah.
Crossed over. I'm going to put crossed over. That came up in the chat, apparently, because it's getting texted to me. It's unifying, can be. Okay. All right, so we got some great words here. So we brainstorm on our topic. Now, here's what everybody really messes up on. Nobody likes to do this. Oh, wait a minute. I got to erase that. That's supposed to be like shading. Nobody likes to do this. Give me a draw. There we go. Okay, nobody likes to do this. Read, inform. How do you inform yourself on a topic? Well, if you don't know exactly what a bridge is made out of, you might want to go read an article about it. The Google will tell you what bridges are all about, right? Then you got to read some more, and then you got to read even more. Don't take off writing a paper before you've read something about your topic, okay? All right, so that's kind of a critical thing. Be sure you read. Don't be afraid to read, okay? And people get scared. They think, oh, I only need 3 citations. Well, I'll tell you, when I write a paper and I need 3 citations, I probably read 10 to find what I'm really looking for, okay? Someone just said equilibrium. Igual, I'll just put igual there. Okay. Equilibrium, balance. That's really what that is balance. Okay. All right. Now, here's the thing. Remember I said you've got to give the brain 3 points, and you've got to give the brain the ability to understand what's happening, right? So again, I'm going to give you another, I'm going to highlight this in red. M squared C. Any mathematicians in the group? Make me care. When you write, make me care about what you're writing. Don't write blah, blah, blah. Make me care. Hook me in. Make me interested. I'm the reader, right? Make me care about what you're writing. And always, always, always have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Don't get Moses syndrome. Don't wander through the desert for 40 years because you're never going to get there if you go that way, okay? Moses never made it to the promised land, okay? That's probably because he didn't make 3 points in his story. He had 10, right? Commandments.
So you would say even like academic writing too should be like a story, with something that engages the reader. Even though you think, oh, it's like academic, like, an article, an analysis or something like that, it should still have a clear beginning, middle, and end.
Definitely, and it should make 3 points. And so you're like, well, the professor told me it has to be 20 pages, or the professor told me it has to be 10 pages. Page count is irrelevant. It's point count. Okay? So we're going to write our paper right now. So to connect, okay, so a little bit of grammar. What is bridge the noun, Merjan? What is bridge the noun?
Something, pathway.
Thing. Right. Noun, person, place, or thing, right? So the bridge the thing is a structure, okay? Yeah. So I'm going to say the thing right here is one of my points. And I'm going to talk about the thing. What does the thing do? The thing doesn't do anything except sit there, right? Okay. Now, what is a verb?
An action.
Yeah, okay. Studied your grammar. That's good. It's action. Okay. So what does it mean to bridge?
Oh, to bridge. Well, it means to connect things.
To connect. Okay.
Okay. Build a connection is what someone.
Build a connection. Yeah. To connect. Okay. And then the third point, these things can be disparate. They can be different. Okay. So we've got noun, verb, and now the third thing is something that's really important. What damages? Damage and repair. Damage and repair. What damages the thing? Potholes and rust. What causes damage? Okay. How do you repair that? And then for our story, we are shifting all of this to, let me see if I can do this now. Metaphor. What is metaphor? Same word in Turkish as it is in English, by the way.
Yeah.
What is metaphor?
Well, it's a symbolic concept that, you say one thing, but it actually represents something else.
Exactly, exactly. So that we are going to switch this to metaphor. Okay. Now, just a couple of another little points before I move to the next page. You don't write the introduction and the conclusion until the very end. You leave the introduction blank, you leave the conclusion space blank. Everybody's doing this on a computer. Back in my day in undergraduate, we were typing on a typewriter and we were writing everything out by hand. I'm so glad we have computers now, because you leave the introduction and the conclusion to the very last. And what you say in the introduction is, hey, these are the 3 things I'm going to tell you about. And this is why. I'm going to tell you about this thing. Okay. I'm going to tell you about connecting. And I'm going to tell you about damage and repair. And I'm going to do that in the style of metaphor. That's my introduction. Okay. And then at the end, you go and you repeat the introduction, only instead of saying, this is what I'm going to tell you, you say, this is what I did tell you. I just told you that this thing is very important and it connects people. And when we have damage and repair, we have to find a solution to things, right? We have to find a positive solution to fix the bridge or it's going to fall down. Okay. So intro and conclusion come last. 3 points, no matter how big your paper is. My dissertation, which will be probably 250 pages, will make 3 points. It'll make 3 very long points. And there will, so what you do then is you make 3 points inside of 3 points. Okay. So if this was my if this was a really long paper, okay, I'm going to tell you about the bridge. And so, like you mentioned, the George Washington Bridge.
Yeah.
That's a suspension bridge. Okay. Well, I can think of 3 different types of bridges easily. You know, there's I don't know what they're called, but there's the pedestal bridge, there's railroad bridges, I could come up with 3 different kinds of bridges. Could we replace end with new beginning? End. I'm not sure. Oh, beginning, middle, end. No, we cannot. Down here under beginning, middle, and end, we cannot replace that with new beginning unless you're going to go to the next chapter. When you finish, you have to be able to finish what you start.
What about the last, sometimes, in the end, we called it contextualization in our AP thing, but connecting it to a broader idea or maybe a broader question?
Oh, absolutely. That could be this 3rd point. You save your 3rd point for the good stuff. Okay. And that's damage and repair, is connecting to to an issue or something.
So the conclusion or the end is not the place for that then?
No, that's your point. Because you can't just all of a sudden say, and as a result of my noun and verb, I think we should go out and save the world. Like, what? Where'd that come from? Yeah. No, you've got to build it. You've got to tell me why. Well, how would our bridge go out and save the world? I've got to have a point about that, right? Okay. No, the end has to be a clear, like when you're reading a bedtime story and we get to the end, we have to say the end, because you want to wrap things up. People in their brain can't be left going, hey, wait, they didn't tell me what the end was. Oh my God. You can't do that, right? So you have to have a clear beginning, middle, and end. Okay. And end doesn't mean we can't use this 3rd point right here to make our broader connection or our broader point or our save the world point, whatever we want to do. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Are you with me? Okay. All right.
I'm like mentally, I'm connecting it to my my first college papers I had this past semester. I'm like, oh, maybe that's what I was missing. And that's where I got my points taken off from.
Well, sometimes, yeah. And then vocabulary is really important. And we're going to talk about vocabulary in just a second. Use words properly and check your grammar. Okay. Because especially when you're doing academic writing. Now, you can use informal language, but you have to acknowledge that you're using informal language. You have to say, like when I was talking this morning and I met with you this morning in my class, I was talking about the concept of you all. in the United States, in America, I don't think they probably say this in Britain, in British English, but in American English, we say, y'all, hey, y'all, how you doing? Right? Hey, y'all. Okay. And then if there's a group of people, then we say, well, all y'all. That's kind of a
We
fun
were
thing,
talking
right?
about it, yeah, this morning through a class.
Right. Right. So we say, all y'all. Well, if English isn't your first language, my friend, and somebody says to you, all y'all, hey, all y'all, come here. You're like, what are they talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. You have to understand the idiomatic expressions, the colloquial expressions of where you're at. And it kind of depends. I'm in the Midwest. And this is what we do in the Midwest is by the way, Walter Cronkite came from Minnesota, and he became on the news, the standard for the correct accent for America, for United States. A long time ago, just so you know, bit of thing. Okay, I got to go to the next page now. I got to clear all of my drawings, and then I got to go.
A question, would we be able to, link this outline or share it on our
Sure, I sent you the PDF. You're welcome to use this all the time. Yeah.
So for our fellow students or, people pursuing higher education that may definitely benefit from this.
Yeah. Okay, so here's our bridge. Here's a picture of our bridge. Now, I know there are people in your group who are far better graphic artists than me, but I drew this. And I called our bridge diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. Now, diversity, DEI are those initials. Dei in Latin means God. And this isn't really a religious, I'm not trying to give a religious presentation here, but I will say that I believe that it is the same God for all people. I'm a monotheist, right? I believe it's the same God for all people, and that God or Allah is the quintessential perfect example of diversity, because we're all made in the same image, yet we all look so different on the outside, right? But our heart's about our heart, right? And equity is fairness. Equity is absolute fairness. Okay. And inclusion, again, God, Allah, that is the perfection, is the perfect inclusion is when all are welcome, right? So on our bridge, we connect. And noun is the thing that connects in the verb. And so, oops, come back. Okay. Oh, okay. There we go. So now in my writing, don't be afraid to do draft. Don't think you're going to write through something once and be done with it, because you're not. That's a bad idea. What you do is you write through it, and then you either print it out or you take your computer into the bathroom in front of the mirror and read it out loud to yourself. So you can hear it, and then you'll hear if you've got a mistake someplace.
Definitely. I think that's where we miss it sometimes with academic writing, is that, we think of, like an assignment or something I have to complete, but it's actually like your argument, especially when you have the ability to choose your topic too. Like that's you as yourself putting forth your stance on something, your opinion on something. So like you said, so, taking it and like reading it in front of a mirror, reading it in front of other people, it benefits you definitely in, developing your speech skills or your public speaking skills, but also it helps you, become more confident in what you're preaching and what your thoughts are, your feelings are.
Right. So the first thing I say, I come out with a strong statement about my bridge. Old, hard, concrete, and steel. That doesn't sound very warm and inviting, does it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, no. These are my thoughts when I look up the river and see the massive structure arising from the muddy flowing water beneath it. And so later on, there's a poem that we're not going to get to tonight, but there's the poem, and it talks about what is that muddy flowing water inside of us? Does it swirl? There's a great word. There's a great vocabulary word there. Swirling current. It's swirl. What's swirling inside of us? Our anxiety, our fears, right? Okay. So this is all metaphor. We've got muddy flowing water inside of us, and then we have to cleanse it, so we have to seek to cleanse it. Okay. So give credit. And then we also talked about this a lot today, because again, I'm doing English language development with my students, and I'm using expressions that they would hear that Google Translate will not translate properly. Give credit where credit is due. That's an American expression that means give credit where credit is due. Acknowledge the positive in something that you may not see as a positive thing, or you may not see as a big deal. So I see this bridge as this cold, hard concrete and steel. I didn't build the bridge. I don't know how to build a bridge. I don't know anything, other than it's this ugly bridge. And sometimes they're not even painted nicely, or they're traffic jams, or, I don't necessarily think of a bridge when I'm driving across it as a big thing, right? But it is. It is. So I'm giving it credit to say, well, it does at least connect us, right? Okay.
Even though there's like tolls and everything, but yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it is honestly so crazy. Like, you're connecting two different places. When,
Right.
division is something that's so apparent, like you see a bridge, oh, it's just a bridge, like you said, you're passing it through it, maybe there's traffic, when in fact it's connecting two different civilizations that, in the past, for example, when like you had two faraway lands, you guys are stuck there, maybe a boat, in a few months it would come over there. But that's what made people so like different. And what I love, about something about America too, and many other countries today, it's we're building our transportation, our abilities to connect with one another, which is the same reason why me as a Turkish person and you as a non-Turkish person, or someone in Kansas City, we're talking like this. Maybe it's because of these bridges.
Right. Right. And it's so much fun, so one of the stanzas in the poem that I'm alluding to is about this connection and about the toll. Can I afford the change? It used to be you paid the toll by putting money in the basket, like change in the basket. Now you have a little electronic thing usually, right? Right. But if you don't have that a little electronic thing, you got to go through the pay lane, right? And you got to put money in.
Yeah.
So in the poem, I say frantic digging for change.
Oh, that's
Frantically digging through my purse because I don't want to hold up traffic by not having the right amount of money, right?
Yeah.
Can I afford this trip? Can I afford to connect with the people on the other side? What's it going to cost me?
Maybe you're giving up something.
Yes,
Or maybe those
mm-hmm.
those biases, those prejudices you may hold, maybe.
You're absolutely right. So, yeah. So anyway, so we build vocabulary. It's important to, when you use an informal statement like this right here in an academic writing, be sure you explain it. Be sure you have a reason to put something informal in. Don't ever use contractions in academic writing. In fun writing, you can say whatever you want. Okay.
Yeah, Grammarly taught me that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And so then, like I have an untamed flow of water. Water in a river doesn't ever stop flowing. If it does, there's a big problem somewhere, right? That's a really big drought, especially in a big river. Okay. So untamed, meaning you can't manage it in any other way. Lush and vibrant land. Don't be afraid to embellish. Don't be afraid to really paint a mental picture of what you're doing here. Okay. So our bridge is connecting two sides. In this particular story, this particular metaphor, the town on one side is called Comfort Zonia, and the town on the other side is called Todos son bienvenidos, which in Spanish means all are welcome. And so we have to move out of our comfort zone to cross the bridge and get there. And what damages that bridge along the way? Sometimes things get damaged when we have to go to an all are welcome, like, ooh, I'm afraid of that person. Ooh, that person's different than me, and I've never had a chance to get to know them. Okay. I know we're getting close to the end of our time, so I have to end with my special. This is my thing. Okay. This is my thing. A single cup of coffee unites us for 40 years.
Yes.
Once we sit and have this coffee together, we are no longer strangers. And as a result, I care about what happens to you. So anybody is welcome to join us. You know, you can send out my contact information or whatever. But I am all about bridging and connecting and getting to know other people. And I especially appreciate this opportunity to have shared this with you tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming here. Your thoughts, every time we talk, I'm like, oh, where is my notebook and pen? I need to take these down. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. You know, the bridge is something that you really don't think, oh, notebook.
Never, if you are a real writer, you never leave home without this. And notice mine's got little flappy things on it. Okay, I got stickers on it so I know it's mine. I got lots of stuff. I got pages with let's see what else I got in here. I got pages with little stickers on the edge, and then I've got pages with things like with little things I cut out of something and stuck in here. That's my comprehensive exam question I had to answer. But you know, I mean, this is your notebook. You can put whatever you want in here. Like I've got little, these are parts of my poem, you know, that I was working on. Never be without this and this. Or you can have a pencil. I don't care. I'll let you have a pencil, but never go anywhere without your notebook, without a little notebook. And you can get one that fits in your pocket or your purse or something like that. But you will be inspired while you're driving down the highway. And when you get to your destination, don't do it while you're driving, but when you get to your destination, be sure you write it down and then revisit that idea, that theme. There's all kinds of stuff in here that's really good. That, you know, like I just opened to this random page and talked about the significance of the bridge and having the courage to cross it. Courage. There's a great word to explore, right? You got to have courage to cross and meet somebody that's different from you or that's not in your comfort zone, right? Just put them on my page. Never leave home without your book.
Thank you. Thank you for
Moleskin
that.
thanks me for that advertisement.
So we have lots of thank yous coming from the chat. Thank you so very much for coming here tonight. You know, re-expressing why we need to understand what this bridge is and what we need to look in for ourselves. You know, what do we have to give up from ourselves to be able to cross this bridge, you know, from our zone of comfort to a land that accepts everyone. What do we need to give up from ourselves? You know, those prejudices, biases, what do we need to give up from those to be able to cross this and, you know, get to this land? So
Yeah.
thank you so much. And right now, actually, if we don't have any more questions, we as eTalks, we do have some questions for
one little thing. We have to do our meditation at the end.
Oh, of course.
I have 1 minute to get that done. Compassionate God, we all seek authentic belonging in our life. Give us the strength to build bridges and the wisdom to connect with others in a way that enables us to truly embody your words of acceptance and love of one another. Can you say that in Turkish? Can you interpret that for me?
Yes.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay, putting my translation skills. Ey rahmetli Rabbimiz, senden gerçek bir aitlik hissetmeyi diliyoruz hayatlarımızda. Bize bu köprüleri inşa etmek için güç ver ve başkalarıyla birleşmek için, başkalarıyla tanışıp onlarla iletişim kurabilmek için bize hikmet ver. Ve gerçekten senin kelamını, senin rızanı ve senin sevgini birbirimizle hissetmek için bize bu yardımını bize nasip et ya Rabbim. Thank you.
İnşallah. İnşallah.
Inshallah. And as finally, as eTalks, we do have some questions for you, actually, which I know I didn't mention to you on purpose. And the first one is, what is your favorite color?
Green. Absolutely. Green means go. Let's go. And it's Irish and I'm Irish.
That fits so right. Yeah. And our second question is, what is a movie that you would recommend for us?
Oh, you know, I don't watch many movies.
So, YouTube channel, news channel?
I'd have to think about that one. I don't know. That's throwing me off my game. I can tell you what book I'd recommend.
That was my third question. What are 3 books that you would recommend for us?
3? I can do
Really?
1. My favorite all-time book is a book called Hind's Feet on High Places by Hannah Hurnard. And it's an allegory, it's a metaphor. And the main character's name is Much Afraid. And she travels to the high places. So I love that book.
Preferably not those like 3-inch textbooks in your back. Preferably
well, okay. I don't know. Right now I'm really reading a lot of things like Racism Without Racists and White Fragility. That's all about white dominance. And so I'm really reading a lot about advocacy and things like that. So I'm not reading a lot of fun books, but it just is what I do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, that's enough. I don't want to push you too much, but if you do,
And everybody needs to read this book.
maybe overrated. I mean, us younger generations, we prefer just to go the quick, easy way, which is not always the right case. But this year I learned Chicago style more through my getting my grade back for my writing and my teacher saying, no, that's not how you do it. And that's how I learned, the correct citation ways. But definitely a manual, searching these things up are very important. And just to close it off, as eTalks, we firmly believe that art will save the world. It's one of the primary reasons we started this talk show too. So we want to ask you, through your experiences in human rights and everything else, what are your thoughts on art?
I think the visual experience conveys a story. And, the unmuted exhibit, the exhibit we did in New Jersey, and then we brought it to Kansas City. Those stories were so powerful by what we saw. People were crying. People who knew nothing about it before they walked through the door. They weren't Turkish. They were American Christians. They walk through the door and they see these stories and there are tears running down their face. You know what? We were at St. Mary College, University of St. Mary in Leavenworth, my alma mater for my undergraduate. And we had the exhibit. A full-grown college student was bawling her eyes out reading one of the stories and seeing the artifacts. I think art moves you. I think that visual reference is very powerful, especially in advocacy. Having something you can see and touch, very powerful. By the way, I have one more favorite book I do want to share.
Of course. Oh, by the way, the unmuted exhibition, just to clarify for our audience, it was a social genocide exhibition that basically brought forth the special objects of people, of victims of misjustice or injustice in Turkey. We brought in their special objects, things that they've made when they were being prosecuted, or their stories, and we basically brought that as a gallery. So it could be paintings, it could be bracelets they've made, it could be a missing shoe that they lost in an accident. Very, very powerful, moving stories. But yeah.
So this is my favorite version of the Quran by Ali Unal. And I'm a Christian. I'm a well-studied Christian. I've been in theology a long time. I had never had the opportunity to interact with the Quran in any way. So this version was recommended to me. I've read several other versions and not been as impressed. But what I love about this is the commentary. And what I love about this is it's blown open my world to see the parallels between what I believe and what you believe, and it's no different. What we believe is no different.
Yeah.
So that has been hugely important to me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I guess by reading this book, even you've built a bridge that we were talking about, built a bridge from one religion to another. And I think that's something that's very profound. And I think that's something that we all have to look for in our lives. What are the bridges that we can build? What are the bridges that we still need to cross? Thank you so much, Kari, for joining us today.
Sure.
And thank you, our wonderful audience. In fact, I'm going to give it back to the host because I think she should be give the closing note and do the hard work on her. So thank you for having us today.
All right. Well, I was really enjoying the conversation, and honestly, it was such a beautiful episode for me. I was taking some notes down as for like the brainstorm on the bridge. So, and I was like texting people about, what do you think about the bridge? So it was very, very, nice conversation, very nice discussion. And it is one of my, first times having this type of seminar. And Kari, thank you so much for, being here with us today, giving your time and effort. And Marjan, thank you for being a wonderful moderator. I should be think about if I will be in the next episode or not. All right. As always, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to write down in the chat and we will always get back to you as soon as possible. Please follow our Instagram and Twitter, and they are linked in the description box as well as the chat. Please subscribe and like our video for a beautiful more information, and have a wonderful day, evening, night, wherever you are. Thank you for joining eTalks today.